Hello and welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Tania and I'm a second-year nurse practitioner student living and going to school in Ontario, Canada. For today's video, I thought I would share how I studied and how I successfully passed my head-to-toe exam as a nurse practitioner student. In my previous video that I did reviewing my first year NP classes, what I didn't mention is that for my advanced health assessment class, we were expected to do and to pass a head-to-toe assessment on a patient. If we didn't pass the first time, we got a second chance, but if we failed the second time, then we had to withdraw from the program. And keep in mind the passing grade for all the NP classes or any quizzes, midterms, final exams is 70%. The marking scheme or the rubric was sent 3 weeks in advance before I actually had to do the head-to-toe assessment. So it gave me a chance to prepare and to go through all the systems that I had to know. The head-to-toe assessment is different from school to school, but generally it's the same. Now keep in mind the health assessment for the NP is different for the RN. There might be some similarities such as auscultating the different lung sounds, the heart sounds, but the goal of the head-to-toe assessment for the NP is to arrive at a diagnosis and or a treatment plan. My head-to-toe assessment consisted of a general survey of the patient, how they present to you in the clinic, are they alert, are they oriented, how are they dressed appropriately for the season, or are they wearing shorts in the middle of winter. Then you get down to the nitty-gritty of the different systems. So starting from your head all the way to your toes in a systematic order. The way I structured my head-to-toe exam is after I finished greeting the patients, I moved on to the integumentary system. So looking at their upper and their lower extremities, looking at the color of their skin to see if there's any rashes, any lesions, checking for the temperature with the back of your hand. After I was done that, I moved on to the head portion, looking at the scalp to see if there's any infestations, to see hair distribution, eyes, ears, nose, and throat. We were also expected to know the 12 cranial nerves, so knowing their names and how to test it. We were also expected to know the different lymph nodes. So starting from the front of the ear, the preocular, going to the back, the posterior ocular, tonsillar lymph nodes, right where the tonsils are, the submandibular lymph nodes, the submental is right under the chin, and then going down the cervical line, so the anterior, the posterior cervical lymph nodes, the supraclavicular lymph nodes right above the collarbone, and then at the back, the occipital lymph nodes. Once I was done with the general head area, I moved down to the thorax and the lungs, and this is your basic auscultation, tactile fermentus. You're also landmarking invisible lines, so the mid-sternal line, mid-clavicular line, the anterior axillary line, just in front of the armpit, your vertebral line, a fancy word for spine. And here is actually where I lost my marks. I was supposed to do a costal vertebral angle tenderness, and that's looking for kidney inflammation or infection. But I was not able to landmark the kidneys well on the patient. I did it a little bit above to where the kidneys were. I think that's just because I was nervous. And basically what you have to do is somewhere here. It's really awkward for me to do it on myself. You just basically put your hand on the 12th, around the 12th rib, and you just basically pound on your own hand to see if there's any tenderness. Once I was done with the lung and thorax, moving on to the heart area, because it only makes sense, it's right there. Then I moved on to the abdomen. Then there was the musculoskeletal system, and then finally ending with a neurological exam. My major recommendation is to start early. I know it may seem simple, and when you get the marking rubric, it may not seem like a lot of information, but when you start practicing, it does become overwhelming. So what I did is that I created my own separate Word document and I arranged it by the titles that was in my marking rubric. So starting with the title and then subheadings and then my own notes. I used the Bates book, but I also YouTubed a lot of it, the majority of it actually. The book was good for theory, but YouTube was really good for doing the practical because it is a practical exam and you're expected to know the theory but also how to execute it. In my Word document, I also included a lot of pictures that I found on Google of the different landmarks we had to know because I'm a very visual person. So just typing out my notes is not the same as having a picture there pinpointing exactly where the lines or where the landmarks are. Also during the test, the profs are looking at how you're landmarking and if you're landmarking in the correct area. And as I mentioned before, I was not able to do the costal-vertebral angle tenderness test appropriately, or I did, but my hand was too high above to where the kidneys are supposed to be. So they are also marking that, where you put your hands and where you're putting your stethoscope. My second tip is to practice. I know it may seem redundant, but practice does make perfect. As soon as the theory was out of the way, I did my own notes. I put the pictures in my Word document. I practiced like crazy. So what I did is that I divided it into different sections as the head to toe assessment already is. So I started with the general survey. I did that many times. I can't remember, let's say 5 times until I perfected it. Then I moved on to the integumentary system. I did that 5 times until I perfected it. So I did the same repetitive technique for all of the different systems, and then I combined it all into one major script. So starting from your general assessment, greeting the patient, all the way down to your last assessment. And it took me about, at the beginning, I would say about 45 minutes to do everything. But as I got better and as I practiced, I saw the timing go down, and I think I got everything within 25 minutes because the head to toe assessment is timed. I can't remember the exact timing, but I believe it had to be less than 30 minutes. You had to get everything done within 30 minutes. My other tip is to practice on the people that are surrounding you. If you have siblings, practice on them. Parents, practice on them. I am an only child. I don't have any siblings, but I did practice on my mom. I didn't practice on her every day. So what I did, I had a little stuffed animal and I just practiced on that. The whole point is to practice on somebody. The head to toe assessment, at least in my case, and I'm sure for you guys as well, is on a live patient. So it's an adult. It can be a man or a woman. In my case, she was a female and she was very voluptuous from the front. So it was really awkward to auscultate and to listen to her heart sounds. So be prepared for anything like that. That's why my tip is to practice on as many body shapes as you can, get the giggles out of the way. It really does help. My other tip is to practice at different times during the day. So what I did towards the end is that once I was comfortable going through the script at least once, I did it a couple of times in the morning. I left it there for a few hours and then I came back and I redid it in the afternoon or the evening, and this really helped jog my memory to see if I could remember what I did in the morning and recreate it in the afternoon. With these basic tips in mind, I was able to pass the head to toe exam, not to brag, but I believe I got a 95%, and the only thing that I failed at was the costal vertebral angle tenderness, which I'll never forget. But I really didn't want to do it a second time, so I wanted to perfect it the first time and pass and continue on to my first semester. I hope you guys learned something from this video. If you have any questions, please let me know and I'll answer them as best I can, and I will see you in the next video.